class. Today we're going to talk about aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So aggregate demand are the combinations of price and output such that both the goods and services market and the money market are in equilibrium. So this is not so much of demand as it is a representation of the price and output. So the first thing we're going to do is derive the aggregate demand curve. We're going to start off with our money market to the right here. This will be our ISLM model. And then down here, we will derive the aggregate demand. So there's two ways to derive the aggregate demand, and I will be using the Keynes-Wick cell, which I will write out after we're done. So first, let's draw the money market. So MD, M over P1. Okay, let's set this in an equilibrium. So we have LM, lofty mountains, IS, icy slopes, and we're going to bring this all the way down to Y1. So let's say our prices are currently at P1. Okay. To derive the aggregate demand, first we're going to increase our money supply, nominal money supply. So that will shift M over P, the real money supply, to the right. And now we're going to see that so M over P increases, given the price stays the same. We're going to see a decrease in our real interest rates to R2. From R1 to R2. And from here, we know that if we have a shift in the money supply from M over P1 to M over P2, we're going to see a shift in the LM curve. So let's line that up as best as we can to LM2. So we're going to see a shift to the right in the LM curve, and now we have a new equilibrium. Okay, so let's bring that down. And we know that We know that as our output goes from Y1 to Y2, our general prices will also fall. So let's draw out the curve connecting two dots. So this will be aggregate demand curve 1. So this can be derived in two ways. And it is negatively sloped because, one, it's categorized as a demand curve, even though it's a combination of price and output. So let's think of it this way. If prices decrease, we'll be able to purchase more. So remember back to supply and demand. If prices decrease, we can purchase more. Well, if prices decrease here, we can make more in the economy. So output goes from Y1 to Y2. Okay, so as I said, this is the Keynes-Wick cell method to deriving the aggregate demand curve. So increase in the nominal money supply increases the real money supply. From there, we see a decrease in our interest rates, which in turn will increase our expenditure and increase our output. Okay. We also can use the Pigou method, or it's also called the wealth effect. This is where we start with prices. So prices increase. So we start with prices increase, and then M over P decreases, the real money supply decreases. Then we see a decrease in consumption, which will lead to a decrease in expenditure and a decrease in output. So here, both options, we see a shift in the LM curve and a movement along the IS curve. We're just starting from either going to the right or going to the left. Here we go to the right, we shift the money supply to the right, and here we shift the money supply to the left. So this is a movement along the LM curve or a shift in the LM curve and a movement along the IS curve. Okay, so let's start with what actually shifts the aggregate demand curve. So anything that shifts IS or LM besides the price level will also shift the aggregate demand curve. So let's do a quick example. Let's write out our ISLM up here, R and Y, LM for lofty mountains, IS for icy slopes, and then our aggregate demand, P and Y. So let's say this is aggregate demand 1. In this example, what happens if consumer confidence decreases? So is this an IS curve or an LM curve shift? So it is an IS curve. So let's take E equals C plus I plus G. We know that consumer confidence is embedded in consumption. So if we decrease consumer confidence, that decreases consumption and also decreases the expenditure. So we know C decreases, which leads to a decrease in expenditure. IS shifts to the left. So let's draw that out. So this will be IS2, Y2, R2. Sorry, I forgot to label the equilibriums. Y1, R1. Okay. So when the IS curve shifts to the left, we see a decrease in output. This decrease in output also comes with a decrease in the real interest rates. And which way does the AD curve shift? It shifts to the left. So this causes a shift in the IS curve to the left, causes a decrease in output and a decrease in the real interest rates, which will shift the aggregate demand curve to the left. Once we have the aggregate supply curves, you'll be able to see the equilibrium with Y and know that it will shift to the left. But one thing to remember is that whichever way the IS or LM curve shifts, the aggregate demand curve will go the same way. So here we see a shift to the left in the IS curve. We'll also see a shift to the left in the aggregate demand curve. If the IS curve shifts to the right, we'll see an aggregate demand curve shift to the right. And same thing with the LM curve. That's just a little hint to keep you guys on track. Okay, next video, we're going to be talking about the aggregate supply.